Caitlin Clark didn't steal the spotlight. She became it. With over $10 million in brand value and a global audience fueling nearly $1 billion in projected revenue, she's not just the face of a team, she's the economic engine of the entire WNBA. Aya Wilson's accolades, while impressive, no longer carry the same weight in a league that's shifting from legacy to leverage. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. Nike's record deal with Clark. Even with a delayed shoe, signal where the future is headed. Clark isn't replacing anyone. She's redefining what matters. Performance alone doesn't drive leagues anymore. Marketability does, and Clark delivers both. The WNBA isn't punishing past stars. It's adapting to a new reality. The metrics have changed. International reach, cross-market appeal, and economic impact now dictate influence. Wilson and others helped build the league's foundation, but Clark is scaling it. That shift isn't sentimental. It's structural. Fans follow value, and brands follow fans. As the league moves to capitalize on Clark's unprecedented pull, the noise around fairness or favoritism fades. This isn't about respect. It's about relevance, and the game's new era has already begun. Caitlin Clark didn't just step into the WNBA. She took over. Her arrival didn't feel like a debut. It felt like a reset. A $10 million brand value. A $28 million Nike deal. International attention. Full arenas. Surging jersey sales. Broadcast deals tailored to her. The league has never seen a player like her. At least not one with this level of market impact. Clark isn't just valuable. She's the most lucrative asset the WNBA has ever had. Her influence stretches far beyond the court. She's driving franchise valuations. She's changing media coverage. And she's redirecting how this league talks about success. In less than a year, Caitlin Clark has redefined the hierarchy. And that change didn't wait for permission. The league followed the money. Clark's global appeal created an opportunity the WNBA couldn't afford to ignore. Whether it was fair or not, they leaned in hard. Hard enough that everything else, the veterans, the dynasties, the past MVPs, got pushed to the margins. Even Aya Wilson, the two-time MVP, the face of a championship team, the one who, for years, was using the league's own marketing as the standard. Overnight, she became an afterthought in the league's new commercial strategy. Clark's rise wasn't about replacing talent. It was about recalibrating focus. The WNBA is no longer measuring success by stat lines or trophy counts. It's measuring by cultural capital, brand value, and international scalability. Wilson's public frustration wasn't misinterpreted. It was direct. She saw what the league prioritized. She watched Clark receive the headline deals, the media rollout, the global push. Then she looked at her own resume and saw the disconnect. Nike's move made it obvious. Clark got the largest deal ever given to a women's basketball player. And her shoe? Strategically delayed. Not rushed. Not tossed together. But held until 2026 to create anticipation. To control the narrative. To build something global. That's not just a rollout. That's a long-term brand strategy. And it confirmed exactly what the league had already shown. Caitlin Clark isn't just part of the future. She is the future. There's no effort to create parity. No urgency to uplift the players who came before. The league is chasing profitability, and Clark is the engine. She boosted Indiana Fever's valuation from $90 million to $340 million. She's projected to generate close to $1 billion in revenue. She's turning local matchups into national events. She's breaking streaming records. The message couldn't be clearer. Marketability trumps legacy. Aya Wilson's dominance didn't generate this kind of economic movement. And in the current WNBA, that's the difference between being promoted or passed over. This is not a slight. It's strategy. The league's leadership has made a decision. Build around what sells. And what sells right now is Caitlin Clark. The impact is already visible. Clark is in nearly every promo. The league's growth narrative centers around her. Her games are being used to inflate engagement numbers. The WNBA's international partnerships are tied to her schedule. And when she's not playing, the decline is noticeable. Finals ticket prices dropped to $10. Multiple arenas couldn't sell out. The broadcast numbers didn't hold. The product's energy dipped fast. This wasn't about the quality of the basketball. It was about the draw. And that draw, right now, is limited to one name. That's the risk of centering an entire business model around one player. Angel Reese felt it differently. She brought visibility and energy into the league. But when her personality didn't align with the league's new tone, clean, quiet, polished, she was phased out, suspended, removed from Unrivaled. No campaign, no clarification, just gone. The same league that elevated her image when it was convenient now has no space for her. She doesn't match the direction. The pivot is clear. The WNBA is shifting toward discipline, stability, and brand predictability, not volatility, not controversy, not disruption. This is a business model driven by global expansion, and that model only works when you have one story to tell. Right now, that story is Caitlin Clark. And the players who don't fit it, they're being left behind. The league can't be everything to everyone. That's not how this version of growth works. You pick a face. You push it globally. You build your next decade around it. Caitlin Clark is that face. Legacy players, whether they're MVPs or not, are now part of the past phase. The model is shifting from equal promotion to focused acceleration. And no one should be confused about where the priorities lie. The WNBA isn't hiding it. They're doubling down. The Nike rollout, the primetime games, the media partnerships, the corporate expansion plans. All of it is anchored to one player's visibility. This is no longer about celebrating the league's collective achievements. It's about building a global basketball product centered around the player with the most reach. Clark has that reach. Whether it's jersey sales, TV ratings, or international buzz, she's moving metrics. And that's what matters. The league's new direction doesn't care about fairness. It cares about what scales. And if that means reshuffling the league's pecking order, so be it. Clark's rise is not a threat. It's a new system, one built on metrics, media, and momentum, not memory. Veterans will adjust, or they'll fade into background. The fans are already shifting. The ones tuning in today aren't necessarily the ones who followed the league for a decade. They're here for the new energy, the new face, the one who breaks records, not just on the court, but in the boardroom. And that's the future the WNBA has chosen to bet on. Clark didn't end Aya Wilson's legacy. The league replaced it. Not maliciously, not emotionally, just economically. This is how modern sports works. Legacy is honored when it sells. And when it doesn't, it's quietly retired. The shift is happening in real time. You can feel it. So if you've noticed a difference in promotion and coverage, in who gets platformed and who doesn't, hit like. If you got thoughts about where this league is headed, drop a comment. And if you're watching how women's basketball is being restructured in front of our eyes, subscribe. Because Caitlin Clark didn't just join the WNBA. She transformed it. The transformation of the WNBA didn't happen quietly. It happened in broad daylight. And it happened the moment Caitlin Clark walked in. There was no grace period, no slow build. From her first step into the league, she was already the centerpiece. Not just the centerpiece of her team or her rookie class, but the entire league strategy. She was a product. The headline. The reason meetings were being held in international boardrooms and marketing departments across every major sports brand. No one else has ever had that impact. Not Diana Taurasi. Not Sue Bird. Not even Aya Wilson, with all her accolades and back-to-back championships. Because Caitlin Clark brought something the league had never had before. Scalable, instant marketability with global reach. That isn't about fairness. That's about timing and money. Clark's international appeal is undeniable. She's boosted ticket sales, spiked jersey demand, drawn media coverage from outlets that had never mentioned the WNBA before. She's essentially given the league what it's wanted for years, relevance. So the business pivot makes sense. A player this marketable isn't something you sprinkle in gradually. You center everything around her, and that's exactly what's happened. But the consequences of that decision are now being felt across the league. Legacy players have been repositioned. And not in some dramatic public demotion, but in something quieter. Strategic silence. Less promotion. Fewer features. Reduced presence in campaigns that they once dominated. Aya Wilson, the reigning MVP, has become the most visible example of that shift. Despite continuing to perform at an elite level and leading one of the league's most successful franchises, Wilson is no longer the focus. The optics speak for themselves. Nike's historic $28 million deal with Clark was announced with the full force of a media blitz. But Wilson? Still no signature shoe. Still no marketing rollout. Just a player with arguably the best resume in the game, watching her brand value stagnate while the league shifts towards something shinier. Clark's shoe, meanwhile, is being held until 2026. Not because Nike's unsure, but because they're certain. They know the build-up will pay off. They're engineering scarcity. They're marketing to the globe, not just the States. That's not a typical rookie deal. That's generational branding. Clark is being positioned not just as a face of the WNBA, but as a cross-market sports property with appeal that stretches into every consumer vertical. Fashion, youth, international TV, gaming, sponsorships. And what that means practically is that the league now treats her success as its own lifeline. That's why her presence determines broadcast slots. Why attendance dips when she's not playing. Why the league's record-breaking growth often tracks directly to her schedule. This is no longer a multiplayer league when it comes to commercial strategy. It's a star-driven ecosystem. And that ecosystem is now being curated, not shared. There's no clearer example of that than the way Angel Reese was handled. Reese had her own fan base, her own personality, her own hype. But personality doesn't fit into the polished image the league wants now. Not if it's loud. Not if it's unpredictable. Reese was suspended, quietly removed from Unrivaled. Her early media exposure was pulled back with zero explanation. She didn't disappear on her own. She was removed from the spotlight. Because this isn't about embracing every kind of star. It's about building one that works across every market, every age group, every platform. That's not a mistake. That's strategy. The league has shifted from legacy to scalability. From honoring its stars to exporting its future. From diversity of voice to consistency of brand. And Clark fits that brand perfectly. She's safe. She's media-friendly. She's record-breaking. She brings in dollars. And she doesn't challenge the system. She defines a new one. That's why she's now the face of every promo. Why her name trends after every game. Why every win or loss is a referendum on the league's success. She's become bigger than the product. That's not her fault. It's the result of a league that decided to stake everything on one player's image. The economic boost proves it's working, for now. The Indiana Fever's valuation exploded. Sponsorships are up. Social engagement is high. Broadcasters are treating the WNBA like a must-have property for the first time ever. But it's not balanced, because while Clark is selling out arenas, other games are half empty. Finals tickets dropped as low as $10. And when she's not playing, the league feels quieter. That's not sustainable growth. That's conditional engagement. And what happens when those conditions change? When Clark gets injured, or goes through a down year, or when fans start to look for something deeper than curated hype, what will be left of the league has already distanced itself from its own foundation. Because Aya Wilson isn't just a good player. She's a pillar. She's part of the reason the league had anything worth selling in the first place. Same with players like Chelsea Gray, Jonquil Jones, and yes, Angel Reese. But the league's new model doesn't have space for balance. It has space for hierarchy. Clark at the top. Everyone else adjusting beneath her. Veterans have been quiet because they see the strategy clearly. It's not personal, it's commercial. But they also know this. Once your value is defined by how you sell and not how you perform, you're replaceable. And that's the real risk here. Because legacy players built loyalty. That loyalty created culture. And culture is what makes leagues last after the hype wears off. Without that foundation, the WNBA could find itself with a brand new global face, standing in front of empty seats. Clark will keep doing what she does. That part isn't in question. She'll score, She'll break more records. She'll bring fans in. But the league now faces a decision: build with her or build around her. Right now, they're choosing the second option. And in doing so, they're rewriting the rules, not just for marketing, but for how value is assigned in the modern WNBA. Caitlin Clark didn't demand this shift. She's simply the one benefiting from it. She didn't ask for Io Wilson's spotlight. She didn't push Angel Reese out. She didn't design the league's new hierarchy. But she also isn't responsible for changing it. That job falls on the league's leadership. If they decide it's worth the effort, because the longer this imbalance continues, the harder it will be to course correct. Fans see it. Players feel it. And the numbers don't lie. If this new WNBA is only sustainable when one player is involved, that's not growth. It's dependency. And the shelf life of dependency is the moment Caitlin Clark was drafted, the WNBA stopped operating the way it always had. And not because she demanded it, but because the system around her needed it. The league had waited years for this kind of spark. Someone who could pull in new fans, pack arenas, drive media deals, and generate headlines without controversy. Clark delivered all of that in a clean, controllable package. And the W wasted zero time turning her into the entire brand. There's no denying it anymore. She's the league's most valuable product. Not just player, product. And with that shift, the traditional power structure got flipped on its head. Veterans like Io Wilson, still dominant, still consistent, still doing everything right. But suddenly, not the priority. This wasn't subtle either. It happened fast. Before Clark played a single professional game, her face was on national promos. Endorsement deals were closing before her rookie season tipped off. Every major network wanted in. And the league? It pivoted everything around her. That meant someone had to get pushed out of the spotlight. Wilson, who was once the face of growth of the league, is now watching the brand she helped carry get handed off. Quietly, systematically. Public frustration from her wasn't shocking. It was honest. She saw it happening in real time. Because when Nike finally gave Clark her massive deal and still didn't offer Wilson a signature shoe, the message was loud. Performance doesn't drive decisions anymore. Profitability does. And the numbers are backing it up. Indiana Fever's valuation skyrocketed. Merch sales broke records. Viewership spiked only when Clark played. And when she wasn't on the court, final seats went unsold. Ratings dipped. The growth narrative fell apart under actual scrutiny. This isn't about whether Clark deserves attention. She does. She earned it. But the WNBA's response has been to pour everything into her, at the expense of its core, of its legacy, of the players who built this league into something worth investing in before the money showed up. And here's the truth. The WNBA isn't trying to grow around Clark. It's trying to become Clark. That's risky, really risky, because putting all your weight behind a single star, that works until it doesn't. One injury, one slump, one PR misstep, and the entire structure wobbles. We've seen this before in other sports. A single-player model works only as long as that player can carry it. But when you ignore everyone else, there's no foundation left to fall back on. Right now, the league seems willing to take that gamble. You can see it in how they've treated other high-profile players, especially Angel Reese. Reese came in hot. Huge social media following. Big energy. Strong opinions. But she didn't fit the new direction. She wasn't market safe enough. She brought chaos. And chaos doesn't sell the kind of long-term partnerships the league wants now. So they moved on. Quietly. Strategically. No press releases. No full court promos. Just silence. Her suspension and quiet removal from Unrivaled weren't just disciplinary. They were directional. The league is trimming anything that doesn't support the new narrative. Disciplined, digestible, and sponsor-ready. That's what Clark represents. And that's why everything is being engineered to support her trajectory. The Nike shoe delay, it's not hesitation, it's orchestration. They're building global demand, waiting for the right rollout moment. This isn't a player deal. It's a marketing empire in development. Meanwhile, Wilson's still waiting for her moment, still playing at an elite level, still winning. But in this system, that's no longer the currency that counts. Legacy has been redefined. It's no longer about how long you've been great. It's about how much you can move the market. And that's where this whole shift feels brutal, because it doesn't pretend to be fair. It doesn't try to protect what came before. It's just business. The league's leadership has decided it's better to chase a billion-dollar opportunity than to maintain balance. And that might pay off short-term. But long-term, there's a growing fracture between the product being sold and the league that actually exists. One player dominating the headlines doesn't build a sustainable ecosystem. It builds dependency. Clark's appeal is massive, but it's not invincible. And right now, the league is treating her as if she is. What happens if that changes? What happens when fans realize the other stars they used to follow are being silenced, minimized, or box out a narrative? What happens when the hype fades and the people who tune in for Clark don't stick around for the league? Because if the WNBA doesn't build multiple pillars of visibility, if it doesn't elevate Wilson, protect Reese, platform other veterans and rising stars, then this whole model falls apart the second the spotlight shifts. That's not growth. That's a bet. And right now, that bet is erasing everything that came before. Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be the center of this. She's just playing her game. But the league chose to make her the center of everything. And in doing that, they've started rewriting history in real time. The promo clips, the partnerships, the social media tone. They're no longer celebrating a league. They're celebrating a brand. And it's one face deep. So if you're watching this shift happen, if you feel like legacy players are being shoved out of frame while the league doubles down on one narrative, you're not imagining it. You're watching it unfold. Aya Wilson's legacy didn't end because she lost relevance. It ended because the league found someone more lucrative. And whether that's good or bad depends on what kind of league you want this to be. Because right now, it's not about honoring greatness. It's about monetizing fame. If you've been keeping up with this shift and have thought of your own, drop them in the comments. Hit like if this gave you a clearer picture of what's really going on. And subscribe if you're here for the stories the headlines aren't telling you. This is bigger than basketball. It's a branding war. And Caitlin Clark, she didn't start it, but she's winning it.